Hey, what's going on, Guardians? It's Tankey here, and today I have a build recommended in my last video by that Spencer from Earth. By the way, in the future, guys, if you have something that's just crazy, or even something that's just a little bit of fun to play, you can let me know in the comments, and if I like the build, I'll make a video about it, and I'll definitely shout you guys out, because this one has been a blast. But anyway, without further ado, let's get right into the build. I think it's even more fun than the last one. It essentially is the solar cousin of my previous stasis build, but with even more damage because we're taking advantage of not only our exotic, but some of the Season of the Worthy well mods that increase our damage and overall survivability. Starting off, we have Bottom Tree Solar. Now, we aren't really using it for Sun Warrior's damage buff, but rather the increased melee and grenade ability when it's active, since the damage increase doesn't stack with our exotic, which is a more reliable damage buff. We're also using Thermite Grenade, Strafe Lift, and you can pick whatever barricade you like more. I'm using Rally Barricade for the added reload speed, stability, and range, but if you're running higher end content, you could use the Towering Barricade for the clutch shield if you're getting pummeled by combatants. Moving on from the weapons, we are using my staple setup for this season, Chroma Rush with Rampage and Rampage spec to annihilate lower tier monsters. It also gives you the ability to use the artifact mod Anti-Barrier, which, if you didn't know, aren't only for barrier champions. They shoot through almost any shield, including Scorn, Cabal, Vex Hobgoblin Solar Shield, as well as Hydra Shields. Neat, huh? Moving on, we have the lovely Cartesian Coordinate with Vorpal. I currently have Major spec on it, but if you're doing something like Rage, you're probably going to want to switch it out to a boss spec. Lastly, the 1K Beamer itself, 1000 Voices, which is one of the best fusion rifles to pair with the seasonal artifact Particle Deconstruction. Alright, with the weapons out of the way, let's move on to the meat of this build. The wells in the exotic. We're using Explosive Well Maker to help make those solar wells with any explosions. Now, Spencer said he uses this with Empty Vessel, which would take more advantage of this mod. You can also swap this one out for Fire and Ice, which is what I do, since I don't have a decently rolled Empty Vessel. And since you're likely doing content that has champions in them, I see this mod as a great substitute if you're not rocking anything that goes boom. Moving on, we have Elemental Armaments, which gives us yet another way to generate wells by killing enemies by using a weapon that has the same elemental affinity as our subclass. This is why we're rocking double solar weapons. Of course, we have Unstoppable Fusion for adding an additional benefit of stunning unstoppable monsters with our fusion rifles. But foreheads, before we talk about our exotic, we have our last two mods to top off this solar well build. And they are Well of Life. Picking up a solar well grants us a boost to our regeneration for a short period of time. This is another reason why we have so many ways of making wells. Lastly, Font of Might, which is a flat 25% damage buff for picking up a well that matches your subclass, and it lasts for 11 seconds. Alright, finally the exotic itself, the Path of Burning Steps. I only recently got this just before my last stasis video, and I think I've taken it off once, maybe twice. They are hands down my favorite PvE Titan exotic to use this season, and they come with the perk Firewalker. Solar Final Blows periodically grant you escalating bonus to weapon damage. You are harder to slow or freeze with stasis, and when you break out, you take no damage from doing so, creating a burst of solar energy around yourself. This exotic is probably a good counter to stasis and PvP with the crowd control resistance, but that's not what I use them for. We use them for the added damage. Now, like I said before, this doesn't stack with Bottom Tree Solar damage buff, but since it offers a total of 35% at 3 and 4 stacks, that makes this buff higher than the 20% you would get from your subclass, meaning you will have more damage in the end while still getting the added benefits of the ability cooldown from sunspots. So let's go over quickly how this whole build works. We have our subclass that gives you sunspots from your solar grenade or super kills, which gives you your regenerating class abilities, elemental armaments, and either explosive well maker or fire and ice for creating both solar wells for Font of Might and Well of Life. Passively, all of your solar final blows are stacking up Firewalker for even more damage for all of your weapons. When I tell you I've just decimated bosses and higher end mobs with this build, it almost isn't fair. because we're pairing all of this destruction with our class item mods. Particle Deconstruction, the perk that single-handedly made fusion rifles meta this season in PvE. And depending on the type of content you're doing, you can use either Thermoclastic Strike to help stun overloads, or if you want to do some crazy damage inside of a Warlock well to enemies affected by stasis, you can rock Focusing Lens. I hope you guys enjoyed this build, and again, shout out to that Spencer from Earth for letting me know that this even existed. I didn't have Font of Might and Elemental Armaments at first, but luck was on my side, and they were available at the war table this week in the Helm. By the way, if you guys like this build, make sure you guys leave a like, as it does help the channel grow. Make sure you tell your cousin Harold about this one so he can buff up his damage numbers. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for any future Destiny 2 videos. It's been a blast, and I don't mean that because of the build. I love you guys, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Peace.